Hello Year 6, and now for the next instalment of The Lion Boy, Chapter 10. It's getting very exciting. For the rest of that morning, Bakami kept Charlie busy explaining to him the workings of the equipment in the ring cage, as the chainmail tent was called, the lion passage from the cages to the ring, and the various other bits and pieces involved in the act. It is an act of féticheur, he explained, smoking another of his smelly little cigarettes and looking at Charlie out of the side of his eyes as he demonstrated the workings of the lion passage gate. The lions appear to be ferocious with me, and I with them, but in fact we love each other. Love, thought Charlie. Not sure about that. Then it was time to feed them. The meat was kept in an enormous galley fridge, as big as a room, along with the food for the sailors and circus people, and Charlie had to fetch it every couple of days. The lions didn't eat every day. In addition, they had their water, which had to be kept fresh and clean, and the medicine, which they took every day in their water. This Makamo saw to himself. After they had the medicine, Makamo went and lay on the floor in the lion cabin, outside the cages, wrapped in his crimson cloth against the cold, and smoked and sang in a peculiar language which Charlie had never heard before. Every now and then during the morning, Charlie and the young lion looked meaningfully at each other. But with Makamo having his rest there was no chance to talk. It would have to be later. Charlie was desperately impatient. The singing put Charlie in mind of the strange, exciting music he heard the first time he saw the circus ship. As Makamo was settled into the lion cabin, giving Charlie no opportunity to be alone with the young lion, Charlie decided to go and find Perrette or Madame Babou and ask her about the music to take his mind off it. But Madame Babou was shaving her legs and told him from behind the washhouse door that Perrette was rehearsing in the big top and mustn't be disturbed. So Charlie wandered back to the rope store in search of Julius. But Julius' father had fallen off a stepladder practicing one of the clown's knockabout scenes with the monkeys. And Julius had to hold ice on his father's leg, otherwise it would never be better by the time they got to Paris. So when are we getting here? They asked Charlie, surprised, because as far as he could see, they were miles from land and hadn't even seen France yet, which was, come to think of it, odd after 3 days at sea. Oh, that's because we strike a course down the middle of the channel, said Julius. If we go too close into shore, people come out and yell at us to come in and do the show, and then the monkeys get overexcited and make so much noise, whooping and chattering, that all the other animals get worked up, so the skipper keeps out to sea. France is just over there to port. We'll be coming in this afternoon, and time to restock, and then head up the river with the tide tomorrow. We'll make Rouen by tomorrow night, probably. You should talk to the sailor guys, then you'd know what's going on. However, as Julius was stuck with his dad's ice pack, he was not available to show Charlie where the music had come from. Ask Hans, he said. He'll take you down there. Charlie found Hans covered in mud as usual, sitting in the learned pig's pigsty. He was eating biscuits and playing with a kitten and looking sad. What's the matter? Asked Charlie. The learned pig is not learned enough, said Hans. There is a learned little horse in France who is doing algebra, but the learned pig only does addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. But how can a pig possibly do that? Charlie burst out. Or a horse. I mean, it's hard enough for human kids. How can animals do it? Hans looked up, and for once he grinned. He was delighted that Charlie didn't know. Oh, he said mysteriously. I can't possibly tell you. Couldn't possibly. You have to wait and see. See the show, I mean, and then you'll see that she is just as very learned. Charlie looked at the big solid tubular pig that lay snoozing at Hans' feet, her white eyelashes resting on her hairy pink cheeks. She looked about as clever as a piece of lard, i.e. about as dumb an animal could get. But then most people don't know cat talk. Charlie wondered about the pig. Could she talk? She really didn't look as if she would have anything very interesting to say. Hans leaned forward and scratched her between the ears, and she snuffled in her sleep in a rather endearing way. Charlie sighed. Tell me about the music, Hans, he said. When I was brought on board there was the most fantastic music going on, sort of wheezing and droning and pumping and singing all at once, like an accordion, only not. Ah, said Hans, that's the Gallipolo. Gawata happy, said Charlie. Gallipolope, said Hans. Ah, said Charlie, none the wiser. She's a sort of organ, said Hans. She's fantastic. Do you want to see her? Let's go and look. And in a second, both boys were off down the deck, Hans still clutching the kitten, Charlie hurtling behind, not wanting to lose him. Steady on, you two, cried a sailor as they skidded past him, not quite knocking over the elegant coils of rope that had been lying about. Sorry, they shouted, and dipped down a hatch on the other side of the stern. The companionway was not like the others Charlie had seen so far. It was not wide and panelled and elegant for members of the public to come down on their way to the big top. It was not dark and cramped like the low passages leading to the storage areas in the hold, nor slightly smelly with warmth and hay like the ones leading to the animal quarters. It was quite narrow, all right, but it smelt of coal and engine oil, and it was getting noisier and hotter with every step. We're right above the engine, said Hans, shouting to make himself heard over the rushing hiss and roar of engine noise, clanging beams and thumping steam. Why, yelled Charlie, how can they hear the music with all this racket? The music is part of the racket, shouted Hans, and stopping quickly in the passageway, he banged on a small door as loudly as so small a boy could. There was no reply, and Hans flung open the door and hauled Charlie inside, slamming the door closed again behind him. Inside was just as hot, but only half as noisy, which was still, Charlie thought, noisy enough. The room was long but narrow, and the whole length of the long wall was taken up with 3 great keyboards, like a piano, but longer and deeper, and coloured green and pink instead of the normal black and white. Below were 3 great pedals of polished iron. Above, and in little sections to the side, were a number of curious pegs and handles, each with a label written in curious old-fashioned writing on a piece of what looked like ivory or flat polished bone. Rising above the whole set-up were rows of metal tubes or pipes, the bases visible and the rest disappearing out through the ceiling and goodness knows where. What on earth is it? Cried Charlie. She's a kind of organ, said Hans. Those tubes, he pointed upwards, are her pipes, like whistles, and the steam from the steam engine plays her, like when a kettle whistles, that all these handles and petals make different kinds of noise come out, and the keyboard is for playing the tune. Can I have a go? Cried Charlie. He quite enjoyed playing the piano, and had once seen a church organ when a cousin got married. No way, said Hans. Major Tib will kill you. It's the loudest thing you ever heard. You'll hear it when we get to Paris. We always play it so that people can hear that we've arrived, like an ice cream van, so everybody will come to see the show. The sound goes for miles, but you know what? It's a horrible noise. I heard it on the river, said Charlie. I remember it. He didn't think it was a horrible noise. He thought it was incredibly exciting. He longed to hear it again. When Macumber went to bathe after lunch, Charlie was finally able to speak to the young lion. He pulled up a bale of hay close to the side of the young lion's cage, and they spoke quietly and intensely. So, said Charlie, tell me everything. There's 2 things, said the young lion, his yellow eyes aglow. First, what you want to hear. At Greenwich, before we set sail, one of the dockyard cats came sniffing about and ended up in here. He was looking for you. I didn't realise because I hadn't met you then, but he was talking about the cat-speaking boy and the missing parents whom all cats love, and saying they were being taken to Paris and the boy must be told. So that's great for you, because we are going to Paris, so you're on track. Are you pleased? Charlie had such a smile on his face. The lion could see that his news had made Charlie so happy that he needed a moment to let it sink in. They're on board the Shark Hawk, he continued. The Shark Hawk cat was telling everybody, apparently. He was desperate for the news to get through. His girlfriend's cousin is a ruins cat and was very firm that these humans shouldn't be lost. Charlie smiled. Good for the ruins cats. So they're probably just ahead of us, he said. Do you think? Yes, said the lion. They can't be far ahead. So if I keep my eyes open, said Charlie, I might see the ship, the Shark Horse. Then in Paris we'll see But the young lion interrupted. You won't see her, he said. Why not, said Charlie. The Shark Hawk is a submarine. A submarine? Charlie felt his stomach wobble for a moment. Knowing that his mum and dad were going to the same place as him was great. Knowing they were going by a submarine underwater with an entire cold dark sea echoing around them and tons of water on top of them and perhaps strange pale sea creatures staring in through the submarine portholes at them with baleful scary starry eyes, that was not great. But they were nearby, that was good, and they were going to Paris, and so was Charlie, and that was the best news in days. The young lion asked, why were they taken, Charlie? Do you know who has them? He had a warm sympathy in his eyes, and in a rush of understanding, Charlie knew why. Because the lions too had been stolen away from their liberty, from their families, from their own lives. I believe they were taken because they know something, said Charlie simply. They are scientists. I think they must have made a discovery and somebody else wants it. Or, I don't know, but it must be something like that. And what is this discovery? I don't know, said Charlie. They were working on lots of things. Do you miss them a lot, said the young lion. I've heard humans have strong emotions. Charlie blinked. Very strong, he said shortly, and lifted his chin. The young lion watched him thoughtfully. Then he said, and the other thing, perhaps he had noticed Charlie's embarrassment. Charlie turned back to him, meeting his eyes between the thick iron bars of the cage. Yes, the other thing, said Charlie. You have to help us, said the young lion simply. I have to trust you. If you betray us, then I don't know. But we can't go on like this. You saw how... Here he said the name of the oldest lion, which I can't write. I shall just say the oldest lion, when any lion says the name in cat. Of course they were talking in cat throughout. How the oldest lion is, how tired and sad. He used always to be planning and dreaming about escape. But now, I don't know, it's as if he's given up. The mothers, by whom Charlie assumed he meant the lionesses, mostly just follow him. They're so used to obeying him and not making him angry that they've forgotten how to think of themselves.